Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. What can happen if your partner is a cheater and needs to be punished for it? The first story will make it all clear. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Cheater in the dark. The person who had my number before me was Mexican girl. Her boyfriend is Moocher. They live together. He had her put everything except his cell phone in her name as his history with the utilities was bad. MG catches him cheating on her. Does she confront him? Does she get in a fight with him? Nope, she just moved out. Remember how I said everything is in her name? MG tells landlord she is moving out. No one else lives there. Landlord did not know about boyfriend. MG tells electric company to shut off the power. No one is living there. MG tells the cable company to end service. No one is living there. MG tells water company to shut off water. No one is living there. MG tells phone company to shut off landline. No one is living there. MG tells mutual friends he moved out and does not care where he is living. MG has her mail forwarded to new address. No one is living at old address. So he's sitting in the dark, unable to leave because landlord changed the locks. He can't take a shower as there's no water, can't watch TV due to no power or cable. How do I know all this? He called her and left several long messages complaining about it. And since the number's now mine... And our second story. You refuse me to call in sick? You're breaking the law. Around 10 years ago, I was working as a contractor for a large Asian multinational who has its roots in the tech industry. A small note. I'm working for a company who specializes in contracting specialists in certain fields to other companies. My actual employer has not much to do with this story. I worked for Company X, who contracted me out to the multinational, who contracted me out to a large aviation company in Western Europe. It's a weird but common setup in Europe. I've worked there for a good 6 years on the on-site support department. It was my job to support just shy of 10,000 employees with computer issues, new software, hardware swaps, etc., etc. I personally am specialized in VIP support, which is a separate role due to the higher-up management are mainly older men who have a bit of a manual. You need to talk to them in a specific way or they don't understand it and get very defensive. At a certain point in this position, I noticed that I was getting random pain streaks in my groin area. I'd been walking with this pain for almost 2 months. In my mind, I already knew how the test would turn out, but I was in denial for a long time. I didn't want to believe that I could possibly be sick, as I'd never had any medical issues in my life. At a certain morning, the pain got terrible. Due to experience with family members and neighbors and friends, I knew instantly what it was: testicular cancer. I needed no test for that. I called my manager immediately, telling him that I needed to call in sick to see a doctor as soon as possible. He responded by telling me that I could not call in sick due to the workload that I had on me and a few important requests that I needed to complete that only I could do. This was with VIP employees. I explained to him that this was very important. While I did not give him any details, as I'm not required to disclose what I need sick leave for, he flat out denied my sick leave. Let me explain. In my country, you are by law entitled to sick leave for multiple years, while the employer cannot punish you, nor can they do anything against it, given that you actively work with an independent company doctor to improve the situation, answer to requests from them, and checking up every now and then. My manager declining me to see a doctor meant he was breaking the Constitution. Now, I decided that I did not want to fight this battle, and I did come in that day after sending him an email, which stated that I canceled my doctor visit that day on request/demand of my manager, and that I would be excused the next day to see my doctor. When the next day came, 2 things happened. My biggest fear came out, which I dreaded for months. I was indeed diagnosed with cancer, and according to the doctor, I needed to have my surgery immediately. The time from diagnosis at my local doctor to lying on the table in a city 30 minutes away was less than an hour and a half. After the surgery, they explained to me that I was just in time because otherwise it would have been way worse than it was now, and that I had metastasis to 3 different lymph glands. The day after my surgery, I had a big smile on my face, thanks to my morphine, and the expectation of my next action. I could now call my manager to tell him I would not be coming into work for a while due to cancer. The response is something that I will never forget. He was quiet for close to a minute as he realized that he refused me to go to the doctor while I had cancer and responded that he understood and that if I needed something, I could give him a call. When I came home from the hospital 2 days later, the aviation company, the customer of my manager, sent me a very large fruit basket and a card signed by all my colleagues to wish me well. After 3 months of radiation, therapy, chemo, movies, and boredom, I called the CIO of the aviation company directly because I could not reach my manager, with a request if I was allowed to work from home while I continued my recovery. He, of course, flat out declined that immediately and told me that I should take all the time I need and not even to think about work. He also reminded me that I'm being paid my full salary despite me working or not, and that I should try to enjoy that luxury. I told him that I understood and that once I got back that we needed to have a discussion. The day that I got back, 9 months later, I was welcomed by all my colleagues. I explained to all of them at once what happened exactly, as my employer was not allowed to share any details of my sick leave. After this, everybody individually welcomed me personally, and that was it. I went back to work without any special attention. I'm not the type of person who wants to be treated differently because of something that can happen to anyone. The same day, the CIO of the aviation company walked by and asked me to have a one-on-one meeting with him where I explained how everything went, and that I'm glad to be back. He reminded me what I told him 9 months before, that I wanted to discuss something with him. I was surprised he remembered that, as I wasn't even thinking about bringing it up. I explained everything in regards to my manager, that he denied my sick leave on the grounds that I had work to do that he could not give to other employees. I also showed him the email which stated everything. Kids always keep a paper trail. I didn't think anything about it and expected him to have a talk with my manager. That is not correct how he handled this. Boy, was I wrong. The very next day, my manager took me aside and profusely apologized for what happened. Just before he mentioned that he had to leave for a meeting to attend at the headquarters of his employer, the next day I learned that the CIO contacted the manager, his employer, with the demand that he would be replaced. He also trusted them to take the necessary actions against him and that they should be happy that I did not intend to take any legal action against them or the aviation company. After another meeting between me and management from both companies, the manager was fired on the spot. I worked there for 2 more years, after which I left for a job offer I could not refuse. I gladly have beaten cancer and have been healthy for over a half-decade now. And our last story. Ex-landlord tries to keep the vast majority of my security deposit, gets wrecked in court. Just a bit of a preface. Besides the landlord trying to underpay me, he also sent me emails prior to the court date saying that I have no chance of winning and should settle for under 50% of the total cost. Claims he has never lost in court. Waited in the court lobby for nearly 2 hours. Landlord sat close-ish to me and kept trying to make stupid banter/small talk with me. I ignored him completely. Finally get pulled into the courtroom after the office was supposed to have closed about 4 p.m. The judge asks if there's anything she can do to help us reach an amicable settlement without having to go through the judicial process. I explained that I attempted that before any court proceedings, and landlord would not accept my offer. His counteroffer was unreasonably low. Unfortunately, we have to do the thing. We are sworn in. Judge asks for a copy of the lease. She reads off the monthly rent amount, then the security deposit amount. Asks me when I sent it to the landlord originally. I tell her around July 4th, 2011. Landlord confirms to her that he received it. Judge asks landlord what he did with the security deposit. I deposited it, he says. Judge explains that she needs details. What financial institution, type of account, etc. I just deposited it to my Wells Fargo or whatever account. Judge lets out an audible sigh. Mr. Tenant, were you told what financial institution this was deposited in? I explained that I was never informed. Another audible sigh. Judge asks if she can speak with each of us separately. We agree. Landlord goes first. About 10 minutes later, they return, and I go with the judge. I'm ready to explain all of the claims he made as to why he was keeping the money, show her all the evidence I've documented and brought with me. Brought 3 folders each with their own copies of various things. Judge closes the door to her office and explains that he is going to give me the entirety of the deposit. She explains that since he never disclosed the location of the deposit or put it in an interest-bearing account, he essentially had no case. She explains that the Pennsylvania Landlord-Tenant Act of 1951 is very specific, and the landlord has a lot of things he needs to follow. I ask if that means he will also be paying for the court fees, about $133. She tells me that I can request that, but since this will technically be a settlement, she was being nice and not putting it in a judgment against him, but he still had to pay the full amount. She didn't ask him about that. I suggest that he pay half as a sign of good faith, and also I wanted this crap to be done with. She thinks this is very reasonable. We go back to the courtroom, and she explains that landlord has agreed to pay the full amount and also informs him that he will be paying half the court fees. The judge asks how long I'd like to give him. She suggests 3 business days. I offer a full week because I'm way too effing nice. Landlord offers to write the check right then and there. He does. I receive the check, and I return to him the uncashed check he originally tried to return me, less than 25% of the initial deposit. In my final moments of glory, the judge again suggests to landlord that he read up on the Pennsylvania Landlord-Tenant Act of 1951, as being a landlord isn't something you should do halfway. I pipe up and explain to him that I had already done him the favor and pull out the entire agreement, which had already been printed up, and highlighted the relevant sections. I tell him he can keep it as I've already read it. The judge says we're free to go. Today was a good day. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.